The United States continues to hammer targets deep inside Iran, and now the target list appears to be growing. This is the Faulkner Focus. I'm Trace Gallagher in for Harris. This is the moment U.S. forces hit a key bridge in Iran. Watch. You can see the total destruction of the B-1 bridge that's near Tehran. U.S. officials say the regime was using it to move military hardware into place for attacks. More bridges and other infrastructure sites could be next. President Trump posting this, quoting now, "Our military, the greatest and most powerful by far anywhere in the world, hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran. Bridges next, then electric power plants. New regime leadership knows what has to be done and has to be done fast." General Jack Keane on Fox this morning.
They're losing all of their capability day in, day out. Facts on the ground are real, and they are definitely losing their capability. And we're going to get to the point where we will accomplish all the assigned missions that the president has given the CENTCOM commander and Prime Minister Netanyahu has given Israeli Defense Forces. We're getting closer and closer every single day to that reality.
And take a look at this video showing ships moving through the Strait of Hormuz, though traffic remains far below normal. 168 crude oil tankers have crossed since the fighting began back on February 28th. But on a normal day, more than 100 vessels would be moving through the waterway. The senior correspondent Benjamin Hall is standing by with analysis, but we begin with the chief national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin. She's live with the very latest on Operation Epic Fury and a big meeting of nations. Jennifer.
Trace, the Pentagon was rocked last night by news that Secretary Hegseth had fired Army Chief General Randy George, forcing him to retire immediately. He's the 5th member of the Joint Chiefs and 18th general officer pushed out without being given a reason since Secretary Hegseth has taken the helm. Multiple sources tell us the removal has more to do with Secretary Hegseth's rivalry with Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, who is a close ally of Vice President J.D. Vance and was considered on a short list to replace Hegseth at one point. Quote, "This has nothing to do with General George and everything to do with Army Secretary Dan Driscoll. This is a message to him from Secretary Hegseth," a U.S. official tells Fox News. Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, General Christopher LaNeve, served briefly as Hegseth's military aide. He will be acting Army Chief of Staff. His swift rise has been unusual. Secretary Hegseth moved LaNeve, a loyalist, to the Army's vice chief role, teeing him up to replace General George, the official said. When President Trump was elected, LaNeve, then a 2-star general, back-channeled to President Trump his support, posting videos online. Secretary Hegseth then picked LaNeve to become his senior military advisor, passing over a female Air Force officer who was slated for the position. Meanwhile, in the Mideast, the Strait of Hormuz remains under threat of Iranian missiles and mines. The GCC Gulf countries are leading an effort at the UN to find a resolution to force the strait open, but that resolution, I'm told, will not be ready until next week. Fox News has also learned that at least 12 MQ-9 Reaper drones, each worth $30 million, have been shot down by Iranian missiles since the war began, meaning the Iranians still can threaten U.S. warplanes. News reports quoting U.S. intelligence indicating half of Iran's ballistic missile launchers have yet to be destroyed is not completely accurate, according to our reporting, though we are told by 2 well-placed sources that what is true is that nearly half of Iran's ballistic missile stockpile remains intact. The U.S. and Israel have destroyed a large proportion of Iran's missile launchers, but some mobile launchers remain hidden in underground tunnels that have been built over the past 20 years. Those missile launchers are rolled out and then put back into hiding. The Iranians can still fire and then retreat to this vast underground tunnel network, we're told, Trace.
Jennifer Griffin live for us in D.C. Jennifer, thank you. Let's bring in Benjamin Hall. He's the senior correspondent and has spent a lot of time reporting from the Middle East. Benjamin, it's great to have you on the show. I mean, you kind of listen to Jennifer there, and it seems pretty clear. You match the video with what Jennifer's saying. It seems like the president is sending a very clear message to Iran that it is time to negotiate or else.
Well, absolutely. And look, certainly on the ground, the military have been doing an incredible job considering it's only been going on for 30 days. And, 11,000 plus strikes have destroyed, we've heard, up to half their missile stockpiles. But as Jen was just saying there, perhaps it's not that much. But the three main problems still remain. 400 kilograms of uranium, uncertain where that is. The Straits of Hormuz remain closed, and the regime is still in place. And so President Trump, in his speech at 9 p.m. a couple of days ago, made it clear that he wasn't going to leave until the job was done. And that means having to address these major concerns. Now, does that mean some escalation? It remains to be seen whether that's true or not. Certainly, thousands of troops, 82nd Airborne, Marines are in place, and many people now waiting to see whether President Trump is going to have to go further, put boots on the ground to try and achieve those. And of course, that can lead to a whole lot of other issues ahead. So we are at a really interesting moment at this time. We haven't heard as much talk about the potential negotiations with the regime. We heard a lot earlier on in the week, but less so now. And yes, perhaps the US is talking to the foreign minister or to the speaker, as they've been saying. But what effect and what power does the speaker or the foreign minister have over the IRGC and the mullahs? And so even if you're talking to some parts of Iran, you may not be talking to the military. So that seems as if negotiations may be taking a back step, and it just feels as if perhaps we're going to see some escalation in the coming days.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Meantime, you had the author and political analyst Douglas Murray. He wrote this column in the New York Post, quoting here, "World leaders should be grateful the U.S. is doing what's necessary in Iran." It goes on to say, quoting again, "World leaders say that this is not their war. They could not be more wrong. It's just that the UK, Europeans, and others don't have the military power or the political will to do anything against that threat. They hope that one day the U.S. would make this problem off their hands, take it off their hands, because otherwise they'd have sat on their hands as the Ayatollah got ever closer to the bomb." I mean, it's very true. It's a good statement, but yet you have, hordes of the media, the left media, the liberal media, Benjamin, that are continuing to say, America could lose this war any day.
Yes, and look, it's fair to say that sort of many countries, the UK, France, were not really prepared, weren't given that much notice that this was going to start. And so they couldn't have been side by side with the US at the beginning. And many of them have said they didn't see this war as legal, and they held back for a while. The question is whether or not, even if they weren't involved at the beginning, they have to become involved now. When you have Iran using cluster munitions to hit at civilians, whether these bases of all these NATO countries are being hit by Iran, the Straits of Hormuz being closed was having a serious economic effect on all these countries. Whether or not those countries were involved at the beginning, at what point do they have to become involved to help out? Now, the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, had a conference of 40 countries yesterday to discuss potentially how they could open the Straits of Hormuz. But President Macron of France saying that there was no valid way of doing that. So we don't know their position. They certainly weren't involved at the beginning, but does it reach a point where they have to become involved because their own influence, their economic strategy is being really affected?
But I will tell you this. I mean, it's an interesting point you bring up because, you have General Jack Keane, and he has been kind of going over this war, and he has been literally just, stunned at how successful the prosecution of this and precise this war has begun. But he also has said, you can't leave without the Strait of Hormuz being open. You cannot give control of the Strait of Hormuz to Iran, Benjamin.
Absolutely, and even if the US were to pull back at this point, the Iranians will see that as a real victory for them. That if they want, they can close the taps, they can shut the oil, and that gives them huge, huge power. Now, the Saudi Arabians and other Gulf states at the beginning weren't necessarily in favor of this conflict as well. They really now are, and they're feeling that you have to finish the job too, because you cannot allow Iran to feel that it has that influence. And so, yeah, the strikes have been remarkable. US military have been absolutely amazing. 11,000 plus targets working hand in hand with Israel. But this is a vast country, and it's going to take a lot to perhaps overthrow the regime or to open the Straits of Hormuz. Now, you do have to look at helping the Iranian people perhaps rise up once the military stops. They perhaps have the key to this. Millions and millions of Iranians want to overthrow the regime. How can you allow them to do it once the military campaign stops?
Yeah. Meantime, Benjamin, in the Easter season, it's time. You have a new series on Fox Nation. It is called America's Churches. It looks at the places where faith, history, and community all come together and why they still matter so much to the people who walk through their doors. Here is a little sample.
Can I tell you a story about something that happened right after Katrina? I saw that the cathedral was still there. And it gave me hope that I knew that we could recover if the cathedral was still there.
The St. Louis Cathedral is an iconic building in the city of New Orleans, where so many people come from all over. It is a sacred place.
I don't believe a community can thrive without faith.
What's really special about a church, it's not the building, it's about the people.
Benjamin, tell us about America's churches.
Well, I'm so pleased I was able to make this. And I approached Fox and I said, I've always really found churches to be so fascinating. You go to churches in the best moments of your life and the worst moments of your life. They bring communities together. They have history involved. They have so much about the community involved too. And I'm very lucky I've been able to tour America and put together this series about some incredible churches. And we've been to the U.S. Naval Academy, looked at the chapel there and the role that it plays to do with service. We've been down to New Orleans and looked at the incredible cathedral about how it helped people get through Katrina. We went to, for example, Syracuse University and looked at how the chapel there helps with education and sports. And it was just a pleasure to film, and it's Easter weekend, and I think sometimes we need to remember to sit back, remember what's really important in life. It is faith, it's community, it's family, it's the things that bring us together. And so, you know, I've really enjoyed making this. I'm so proud of it, and it's beautiful, beautiful buildings. We take you inside these buildings, we show you some of the most important, influential people who go there, and just a real joy to make it, and I hope everyone enjoys it on this Easter weekend.
Well, you should be proud. Benjamin Hall, have a solemn Good Friday and a happy Easter. Thank you for coming on. Best of luck with the new series. You can see all the episodes, America's Churches with Benjamin Hall, streaming now on Fox Nation right now.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.